Hi there, in this tutorial we're going to learn how to use the Curvature tool in Adobe Illustrator. We're going to draw these four guys. Yeah, so let's get into it. All right, to get started, File, New Document. Surprise, surprise, it's going to be Letter. Let's click Create. Let's save this one and we'll save it into our desktop, into our Illustrator class files. And this one's going to be called the Curvature tool. So Curvature tool, that'll do. Click Save, click OK. All right, we're going to bring in our image that we're going to trace. So let's go to File, Place. And it's in your exercise files. Look for one called Redraw Image. And let's make sure it's a template because it's going to put it in the background and gray it out and lock it so it can't be moved. All right, next thing I want to do is I would like to use our Curvature tool. Now make sure on your Layers panel you're on this top layer here. Okay, we're going to grab our Curvature tool. It looks like quite like the pen tool, right? Now the pen tool is, we're going to do that in the next tutorial. It's like the hardcore version, okay? The Curvature tool is newish to Illustrator, and man, when you're learning and you're new, there's very little time where you actually need to go to the really hardcore tool. So Curvature tool, we love you, making the pen tool that little bit easier to learn. So I'm going to zoom in, remember Command plus or Control plus on my PC. What did I hold down on my keyboard to move up? Okay, remember I held down spacebar, get the hand, click and hold drag my mouse. And now we're going to draw our alien. So we're going to start with the eye in the middle. Basically, it's easier if I just show you and you get a sense for it, and then we can draw the next ones together. So I'm going to click once at the top, once on the side, and nothing really happens until I move my kind of cursor out. I'm not doing anything, it's just connected naturally. Click once, that's all I'm doing. Clicking once more and clicking a last time. Cool, huh? Okay, it just goes through. All I did was click once with my mouse and it kind of knew that I was trying to draw curves because I'm using the Curvature tool. What I'm going to do is a couple of things before I draw this next one is I'm going to make sure the fill is set to none. Okay, I'm going to have a black stroke, that's fine. Also, what I'm going to do is under View, let's turn off Smart Guides. Okay, so if your tick's on like this, turn it off. It's just, sometimes it's super handy, like we'll do for the crown next, but sometimes it's a bit of a pain. So in this case, it's a pain. So what we're going to do is draw this outer eye. And again, like we could try, like you definitely need more than 2 points, right? If I click on there, and it just can't make it a circle. So I could click once and try and do it 3. Okay, getting there. It just doesn't get to kind of a nice circle. So a circle or an ellipse needs at least 4 points. You can have more, but the more you have, the kind of less smooth it looks. Pretty cool, huh? So give that a go, do those circles, and then we're going to look at these other ones, and it's pretty much the same thing. Let's start at the top here, click once, click here again. Okay, and where am I looking? Like the circle was easy enough, okay, so it's all 4 corners. And this one here kind of turns in on itself. So what you're looking for is the apex, okay, or where the curve changes the most. Okay, so along the top here, that's where it changes. Like this curve here changes the most at this top point because it's kind of symmetrical. On this curve where it kind of changes, it's about here. Maybe it could be a bit further up like this. You can click and drag them like I just did there to move them. Okay, and then you're looking for this curve this way, and where the middle of it is just kind of about there. And click once. And you're like, it doesn't work. But then you move your mouse off and it kind of tries to it does a pretty good job, right? So where this curve goes all the way around, so the apex of this one changing here is about on the corner here. Now, in this case, don't worry about the second line just yet. There's a little bit of faith that goes into this, okay? So it's going to take some practice, but I could add another one here because there's there's a curve there, and there's another curve here, and there's a curve here, and those are the kind of apexes of it. There's another curve there, another kind of apex corner there. You can kind of start to see what I'm doing. Now, I can adjust this afterwards. I know that one's not quite right. Don't worry for your first pass. Let's try another leg. Now, what I've found through my practice is that the least amount of anchor points you can get away with, that's what these little dots are. So I know that if I click on this side and click on this side and then come up here, can you see it kind of fills out that bottom part for me? So I'm looking for that apex, the apex of that curve, the apex about here, the apex of this curve is about there, there's one kind of there, and there's one at the top here, one there. I'm just going to go and click them all now. After a while, you get kind of confident, you get to kind of know where everything goes. You can see when I get back to the beginning, that's the little icon. It's actually, you just click on it and it works. Okay, but just so you know, see that little icon, the little 0, it means it's going to kind of complete this complete path. Okay, over here, it's going to be adding a new path. I want that one, that little icon with the little 0. That kind of means I'm going to finish it all off. Cool, so it's kind of working. So that's the idea with the curvature tool. You block in the kind of hard stuff or the core of it, and then you can make adjustments afterwards. Now remember the black arrow, if I click on it, it moves things in its entirety. Remember the white arrow that we looked at earlier on? Okay, this adjusts the finer points of it. Okay, and what I can do is there's a big kind of mess over here, so I can click on this. Now what you're looking for is, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can see these little anchor points here. They've got these things called handles that pop out. These little handles influence the way the line goes through. So your curvature tool is putting these in automatically. They're always there, but the curvature tool just kind of hides them away because they're a bit nerdy. But when we get to a point where we want kind of some fine adjustment, the nerdiness helps. So what we might do is, you can see here, this curve doesn't actually go through the line properly. Okay, so I might have to move the anchor points. What influences the line quite a bit though is these handles. Okay, they kind of pull the line. Okay, watch this. If I grab one of the darker dots, you can kind of see if I'm pulling it in and out, okay, to adjust the way the line works, and I can move it left and right. Okay, so it kind of influences it like gravity. So what I'm going to do is kind of like drag it down here. This anchor point probably needs a bit of work down here. This one's going to move around. So you can do some finer adjustment now. I click on this one, drag it down. You can drag it in towards itself as well. Most people forget that you can do that. Okay, so in close to it, you can see it's actually quite a tight curve. Okay, and the further out it comes, the more kind of exaggerated that curve is. So there's going to be a little bit of finesse that goes in this. Now, don't sweat it for your first version. Okay, we're not going to make this absolutely perfect. And we're looking for just a kind of a general understanding of the curvature tool, even though I'm clearly in front of you trying to tidy this up perfect. Okay, so we're going to leave it there. And what you might find is, say you've put in too little, okay, say you've not got enough curves. And what you can do back with a curvature tool here is, let's say we've got too many. I know we do down here. There's kind of like 4 in this row here. You can just hover above them, okay, and you can click on them and just hit delete key and just gets rid of them. I'm going to click on this guy and hit delete key, okay, and it just gets rid of them. Same thing to add them. You actually not. Actually, you just kind of hover above and see the curvature tool changes to have this little plus here. Okay, say I want to add one there. Okay, then I can go to I can move it by just using this. Okay, and then if I want to make adjustments again, back to the white arrow. I said, don't worry about it. And I spend the next like 2 minutes worrying about it. All right, so that's going to be it for this guy. Let's leave him and move on to the next thing, because the curvature tool is awesome, but it does curves. So I'm going back to the curvature tool. I'm at this crown here, and if I click once again, like it's not going to work, right? It's trying to do curves everywhere. It's cool. It's like kind of like a lily pad thing, but it's not what I want. So you can use the curvature tool to do kind of straight corners. It's quite easy. All you need to do is double click for a corner. Okay, so double click your mouse, double click your mouse, double click your mouse, double click your mouse. You get the picture. If you forget and click once and you're like, oops, forgot to do the double click, you can just go back and double click it. Okay, and it converts it back to a corner. So one click is a curve like we've already done, but double click it and it goes back to a corner. Double click, double click, double click, and back to the beginning. Remember that little circle that we're looking for? Okay, nice. All right, so that's how to do curves, our very average looking alien, and our very simple looking crown, which is corners, and we use that by double clicking. Now, Ninja time. Okay, Ninja has curves and corners, and this is more typical of what you're going to be doing, right? So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, so what I'd like to do is a mixture of both. So I'm going to work through it with you, okay, and we'll start down the bottom here and work our way up. So you've got to kind of just ask yourself the question, until it becomes more of a habit, just ask yourself, is this a double click or is this a single click? So is this a corner or a curve? This thing here is a corner, it's like an edgy corner thing, sharp. Okay, so I double click. Now, if this is a curve here, so remember, where is the apex? It's only a small curve, but it's about there. So I click once for a corner or double click for a corner. That's right, once for a corner. Okay, now this guy in here, you can kind of see it's doing the curve, nice. Now this bit here is a corner, okay? There's a nice sharp change of direction and double click. Up here, double click like our crown, double click, double click. Might be tempted to go all the way across here, but no, we've got to address this curve here. Okay, and it's clicking once because it's a curve. Here, sharp corner, double click. Now, a circle, remember, needs like at least 4 points. So 1, 2, 3. Let's give that a go. So let's go 1 there, 1 there. Don't worry about it. You know, it's like, oh, it's not quite working. But then if you come around, oh, look at that. It's looking good. And then back to here, and you're like, whoops, I clicked once and I got a curve again. What do? We double click it, and it goes back to a corner. Click once for a curve, double click for a corner, double click for a corner. This is a tricky one because you're like, where's the curve? There's the curve out there. Say click once there for a curve. Double click here for a straight line. Okay, and I double click here. It's kind of a weird one, right? Because there's kind of a curve and then a straight line. Let's go to here, curve, double click for a corner, back to the beginning looking for that circle, and we have some sort of like squat ninja. He's like a Lego ninja or something. Anyway, let's have a look at doing this inside one, because that's I guess an interesting one as well. The circles, we could just use the ellipse tool, I realize, but we're not going to because we are learning the curvature tool. And just like at the beginning, we did the eye, it's just 4 clicks because they're all curves, and we do it in all corners. It's pretty cool, huh? They're pretty good circles. Now this guy here. So I'm going to start at this curve because that's clearly a curve. Okay, and then go around to here, and this is one of those tricky ones again where there's a curve finishing and a straight line starting. And I know that because it's curved there, we've got the curve part, that's what's making the line curved. Now here I want to double click. Okay, I want to double click to get a straight line over here. Click once for a curve and double click for a line. You can see this, you're like, that's not working. It's because we haven't finished the line yet, okay? So double click here to get a straight line, and then back to once. You can see here, it's gonna work. Click once for a curve. Okay, there's a little bit of, I guess, experience that comes along with knowing some of these more exaggerated lines. But if you're thinking like, why didn't he just grab the rectangle tool and then grab the black arrow and do that? Because that's exactly what I would do. But we're learning the curvature tool. Okay, so we draw ellipses and we'd probably do that for the center. Let's have a look at the next one. Actually, we're not going to have a look at the next one. You're going to do this one by yourself. Okay, I want you to see if you can do this owl. Okay, I want you to do them. I want you to color them, and I'd like to see an image of it. So stick it in the comments or in the projects. I want you to see how this owl goes. And yeah, you can fancy them up if you like, or just do them nice and simple. A nice simple icon, give them some color. And yeah, I'd love to see this guy to prove that you've done it. And if you're up for it, let's color them all, okay? You do some sort of ninja alien montage. Okay, so I'd love to see what you're done with these. And yeah, we're gonna move on to the next exercise.